Hello, everybody. Welcome to Comic-Con 2013. I love you too. Yeah, just him. Today we have a fairly full panel with a lot of exciting stuff. People are still streaming in, but a little bit of housekeeping. Definitely, we're staying through the Q&A today for a reason that will become clear near the end. And we do have a packed panel for you today. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to our panelists. I'm also going to turn on this PowerPoint clicker, which terrifies me. So. There we go. I'm good with technology. Luckily, I'm not doing the tech demo today. So, the panel today is called Halo Inside the Looking Glass, and that's obviously an allusion to the fact that we have a product coming out on Microsoft Surface and Windows mobile phones, and so glass has been a big part of our year this year. But it's also called Inside the Looking Glass because we want to give you a little bit of a look into the development of Halo Spartan Assault in particular, and we'll have a couple of other little announcements here today as well. So our panelists are myself. I'm Frank O'Connor. I'm the Franchise Development Director at 343 Industries. My job is to stand up here once a year and then insult people during the Q&A, and then get yelled at by the nice people back at the office for how mean I was. This is Dan Ayoub. He's our executive producer on Halo Spartan Assault, and he also... Yeah. He also runs our publishing division, which is the division at 343 Industries that handles all our sort of extra stuff, as well as the main game itself. Dan obviously published Halo 4, but also publishes other stuff like Halo Spartan Assault. And to his left is Martin Durand from our partner Vanguard. And these are the geniuses behind the tech and the art and the implementation of Halo Spartan Assault, and we're very excited to have him all the way over from Europe today. To his left is Graham Ballbag Jennings, the senior producer at 343 Industries, and he works on Halo Spartan Assault, and his middle name is very famous in our studio. And to his left we have Nick McWhorter from Dark Horse Comics, and he's going to be talking to us about our new partnership with Dark Horse Comics, and this is Comic-Con, something we're very excited about. And to his left, which is stage left, is it right or left? I don't know. To his actual left is Brian Reed, a franchise writer at 343 Industries. He worked on the story for Halo 4, he's worked on the story for Halo Spartan Assault, and he's also going to be talking a little bit about the comic project that we have with Dark Horse today. So, without further ado, I'm going to turn over to the much handsomer and more charismatic Dan Ayoub, and he's going to talk a little bit about Halo Spartan Assault.
Thanks. Hello?
Yeah.
No? There we go.
Yeah.
Hey, everyone. First of all, thanks everyone for coming. Excited here, day one of Comic-Con. You guys having fun yet? I am looking forward to getting out there after this panel, so I hope to see some of you guys out there. So yeah, just a couple of quick words about Spartan Assault. So for those of you who might not know what the game is, at a really high level, brand new way to play Halo. So we wanted to do something really different since we were looking at mobile platforms. Easiest way to think of it, top-down twin-stick action shooter. If you like Robotron, if you like Smash TV, those types of games, those were kind of our inspiration as we were developing this. Just very quick, fast-paced action, something you could just jump in and get going. But, at the end of the day, whatever we do wants to stay connected. It still has to feel like Halo. So while we were building this, the goal was really how do we create the right experience for the right screen, right? Because obviously Halo, everybody knows that classic first-person shooter experience, staring down the sight of your gun on your console, but this has never really been done on this kind of franchise level for us on mobile, so it was really important for us to do the right game for the right screen. So we built it with touch in mind, and we wanted to make sure it was true to Halo. So the things you guys like about Halo, the sandbox, that's a very big part for us, so the ability to pick up any weapon through the course of the game, jack any vehicle, obviously really awesome cinematics. We worked with the Sequence guys, Sequence group up in Vancouver, who we worked with on Halo Anniversary and Halo 4 as well, to actually get some cinematics into mobile devices, which is something you generally don't see as a rule. So we're really excited to be able to do that. So it's everything you'd expect from a Halo game in just a very different compartment, right? And we also wanted to make sure we were taking how people play mobile into account. This wasn't going to be something, most people don't sit down and pound through a mobile game for 7 hours in one shot. So we kind of broke it up into smaller chunks. So if you do want to play start to finish, you're probably looking at 2.5 hours to get through it. But it's broken up into chapters, so you can get through it if you've got 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, something like that. Then the big challenge, of course, for mobile is always controls, right? I mean, if anyone here has played any of the mobile games, that's sometimes where you get into trouble. If you're like me, your fingers glide when you're trying to play and all that stuff. So one of the really cool things we did, I think from a control standpoint, we'll talk a bit about this in a minute, is just assume that that's going to happen, and we created an adaptive control system. So if you're playing and your hands do glide, your controls actually move with you. So it's a really, really cool thing because you never lose control of your character. You're able to just keep going. It's a whole lot of fun. And finally, graphics, right? Sight and sound. People think of Halo, it's cutting edge graphics, it's great sound. We did 60 minutes of original audio for this, which has never been heard before. Really, really fantastic. And the level of graphics, quite honestly, that we've been able to get done in the game is just extraordinary. When you think of mobile games, generally the first thing people think of are limitations. And we just wanted to change that paradigm and just say, like, man, what's possible on this? Can we really make a badass looking Halo game on these devices? And we feel like we've really been able to do that. I think we've got a couple of shots of some of the environments here. You can just see some very, very interesting environmental type pieces that we've created that are going to pop on these types of devices. And again, as I was saying earlier, everything we do ties back into the larger franchise, right? So there's a story connection back to the franchise and back to Halo 4, where this is actually taking place on a simulator on board the Infinity, where Spartans can hone their skills in their downtime. And this is a way for them to reenact classic battles that the UNSC have fought and kind of take a different, their own kind of spin on it. And in this case, they're going to be reliving some of the early missions for Sarah Palmer.
And Dan, you're talking about graphics. It's pretty much the same experience on Surface as it is on phone, right, in terms of how the fidelity looks.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's a great point, and one of the really, really cool things is obviously, this will work on phone, this will work on your tablet, this will work on your PC. And what's really amazing is, you see the videos, you see it on tablet, it looks as good on your phone, and it looks as great, on your PC. So it's just a fantastic experience across the line. And the other thing we wanted to do was unify those experiences. So if you start playing on your PC, you can continue playing on your phone, you can continue playing on your tablet. So it just really turns into a really fun experience you can take with you, with connection points back into your Halo 4 experience, which again, we'll get to in a second. But I do want to give you guys kind of a peek for people who might not have had a chance to see it yet. We do have some video that we can go to that'll just kind of give you a great example of the game in real time. So I'm going to try and talk through this without talking over the sound effects here too much, because the game really does sound phenomenal as well. But this is just a great example. I love some of these levels because it just shows how much action we're able to get going on at the same time, right? So you can huck the grenade, you can jump in, you can grab, as I said, weapons from the battlefield, you can grab vehicles from the battlefield. This is probably one of my personal favorites. For those of you who may remember the dual SMG, it's a tremendous amount of fun to just do that in the game, right? And just mow through a tremendous amount of opposition. Interesting point actually this brings is one of perspective. So I talked a little bit at the beginning is, the challenge for us was how do we take Halo and make it work at this perspective? And, working with the guys at Vanguard, we actually came across some pretty interesting ways to do this. And, and I just love this one. It's just a great example of perspective. But Martin, you remember as well as I do that process, right, of moving the cameras around. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
One of the good things we've heard so far in the game, people who've been playing the game, is the fact that they say it feels like Halo. It captures the spirit of Halo, as Frank usually calls it. The best comment we've been getting is people say, okay, it actually, when I'm playing this game, it feels like I'm playing the traditional Halo experience, but then just from a top-down perspective. And that may sound very trivial and very straightforward, but when we started the project, it wasn't that simple and straightforward. Because, as Dan just mentioned, the references to Robotron, I could have gone to the team and say, okay, guys, we're going to make a game that's probably going to be best described as Robotron meets Halo. But the question then becomes, which side of the scale are you going to end up on? Because if you're going to follow the Robotron paradigm, you're basically going to end up with a very fast-paced, unlimited ammo shooter where you're shooting thousands of enemies every single second, which is what Robotron is all about. And that's definitely something that doesn't really tie in with what Halo is all about, which is obviously limited ammo, picking up different weapons as you go along on the battlefield. But if you move to the other side of the scale and say, okay, we're going to go for the Halo experience, but then just with a top-down perspective, the first question that we obviously asked ourselves, is that going to be fun? Perhaps there's a reason why all these twin-stick shooters out there follow the Robotron paradigm for 30 years, and perhaps this is not going to work. So the first thing that we want to get clear for ourselves is if this particular top-down perspective is going to work. And we actually used a very straightforward and simple trick for that. We went and played a lot of stuff in Halo Reach. We captured footage, and this is actually something you can do yourself as well. And we captured the footage, and in the theater mode, we played back the footage. And what we did with the camera, we just pulled it back all the way to the top at a slightly off angle of 88, 87 degrees. And that gave us this exact perspective that we wanted for this game. And what we then saw was this little guy running around on the battlefield, shooting stuff. And whenever he was shooting anything, you could tell by the color of his bullets which weapon he was using, and the rate of fire told you which weapon it was. You could see the elites and grunts all scramble, seeking cover, and jackals trying to circle you and that kind of stuff. And that's when we said, okay, this can definitely work. This can actually work as a perspective for the game. So the briefing for the team originally was really simple. After that process of research, we basically showed them the actual footage, the clips that we captured, and said, okay guys, this is what we're going to make, this is what it needs to be, with obviously the slight caveat that it needed to also work on touch devices, which was the next big thing that we needed to address.
So you guys are, we're talking about this from a remote perspective, and I think people in the audience, the cool people in the audience use like Recon and Inverted, and there's everyone else as well, but they're probably imagining, how do I do this with my thumbs, and how do these controls, and how do the Halo specific controls, things like boarding and reloading, can you talk us through a couple of examples of how you actually do those slightly more complicated things on screen?
Yeah, so obviously movement was pretty straightforward. It's the left stick obviously controls movement, but the right stick was pretty difficult to nail initially, because touch-based devices aren't as how shall I say,
Tactile.
Yeah, tactile, or even sensitive towards what you want to do. And if you want to aim for somebody that's slightly to the right of you, if your thumbs are a little bit too big, you totally run into issues there. So we actually addressed this by adding some auto aim onto it, and we asked ourselves the question: is this blasphemy towards Halo fans, which we are as well? So, and we answered it with no, because it actually feels really, really well. There's a slight auto aim correction that if you draw your thumb in the direction of the enemy you want to shoot, we help you a little bit by hitting your enemy. And it's all about shooting in the direction of wherever you want to shoot, and make sure you manage your ammo in the correct way.
And what was really fun about that too was just that process of tuning it, right? Because I mean, we ended up getting to a place where it didn't feel artificial or anything like that. It was a tremendous amount of fun. But yeah, it did lead to that control problem we were talking about, where I think we probably went through a dozen different control variations, if not more, trying to get to the right one.
Auto aim and the control of vehicles were definitely two of the ones that we had to reiterate time and time again. And we did it with all the playtests. I think we had 6 or 7 playtests.
Yeah, how many playtests did we end up with, Graham?
I think it was probably about 12 in the end, to be honest. But yeah, we had different editions, as Martin says, of controls. One day we'd kind of nail the on foot and it felt good and it was solid, and then we'd go to the vehicles and one was cool and the Ghost was great, and then we're like, yeah, for the Wraith, and back round we go again. So I think from a lot of games I've worked on, this has been the hardest kind of control challenge we've had.
Yeah, I think the big thing is obviously that whole the transition from moving towards a physical joypad with physical constraints towards something that's on touch, and you just have to get adjusted to it. And I remember some of the first playtests where we actually designed the game for it to be really held as if you were holding a glass joypad. And I ended up being one of the first playtests, and people just put the tablet down on the table and they started pointing their fingers on the screen.
There were a few people in our studio who did that as well, who I won't call out.
That's obviously people having gotten used to the fact that you just point at whatever you want to shoot with your index finger, which is not how we wanted this to play out. And we really needed to set the barrier high for ourselves with the touch controls. I remember doing the pitch to you and saying, okay, we want to do for twin stick shooters on touch devices what Halo did for console shooters, and that is redefined control method. And I think we've come a long, long way. I know it sounded really ambitious and a little bit arrogant, but I think the playtests have shown that people are really, really liking it. So I'm really proud of that.
I do think you were drunk when you said that too, and quite honestly, it did end up working out. And yeah, I mean, and Frank just brought up the great point. For those of you not familiar with playtests, this isn't like a couple of people. We have like huge swarms of people come through to play it. And yeah, it was really interesting because when we would think we nailed it and then people would just come in and break it within a couple of seconds. It was a pretty interesting process.
So we talked a little bit about controls and obviously the graphics. I think the Halo universe is built.